smile, smile. We're burning down with the VIX. Oh yeah. Stock shoot higher.
Happy Sunday, everyone, and welcome to another Courage Pays Better Than Fear market preview. It is July 27th. We are headed into the final week of the month of July, getting ready for August. That's going to kick off on Friday, August 1st, and this week is shaping up to be a powder keg. I think the market makers saved it all for this last week, and it's going to be intense. And I'm going to pull up the data that we're going to get this week just to show you what we're looking at here. And it's going to start on Tuesday. We're going to get JOLTS job openings at 10 a.m. And then when we come over to Wednesday, we are going to get GDP, which is going to be very big. And then you could see here at 2 p.m., we're going to get the Fed interest rate decision, which more than likely they're going to hold rates steady, followed by the Powell presser. I'll be live streaming that once again on Wednesday. And then Thursday, there's no let up. We get core PCE. We're going to get personal income, personal spending. And on Friday, August 1st, we're going to get non-farms payroll and unemployment on top of ISM manufacturing PMI, Michigan consumer sentiment. So it's off the chain. And on top of that, we have Apple earnings, Amazon earnings, Meta earnings, Microsoft earnings. And then a lot of tickers that I'm interested just in seeing what happens with our earnings: Roblox, ROKU, UNH. I can't wait. I'm excited. I hope you guys are excited as I am, but this is going to be one fun week. I'm going to prep you for it, let you know what I'm seeing here. I'll just start by saying, going through the broader markets, typically I'll have an edge going into the week. And I can honestly say I don't have much of an edge in terms of what I'm seeing from the charts. We are extended to the point where we are in need of a pullback, of a bit of a rest. Who knows if we're going to get that if we have bad data this week. I have one ticker that I really like for a day trade setup, and I'll share that with you guys. It's one that I'll be watching along with two others who report earnings this week, and that's the three that I'll be focusing on. But let's go ahead and jump right in terms of what we are going to get this week. So we're going to start here with the SPX, the broader markets, and we could see that we just keep pushing higher, making new all-time highs. You could see we are overbought on the RSI. Potentially we could see that come down because we typically don't stay overbought on the RSI for too long before getting a bit of a pullback. And you could see that we have quite a ways to go to come down to that 20 EMA or even the 50. And we haven't been down to the 50 EMA, you could say here, May 1st. But we gapped above it from April 30th to May 1st. So it's been quite some time since we had a significant pullback. And you guys know I talked about it so many times that August typically brings about some weakness into the market. So we'll have to see if we're going to get that starting Friday or this week from the earnings. Two things to point out here. We do have an unfilled gap down here to 60.2973 on the SPX. And we have another one down here at 56.90.96. If we measure these out, we could see from the current all-time high down to that first unfilled gap, that would be about a 5.71% correction. And then to the other unfilled gap, if we come down and measure that guy out, that takes us to about 11%. So potentially that is something that we can anticipate here. Who knows? Last August, we had the flash crash, which had everybody panicking. Let's see if that happens. But we are starting to look a bit lethargic up here. It's all going to be dependent on earnings. Can Microsoft, Meta, Apple, Amazon lift this market this week? Yeah, if the reports are good enough, but will they? Who knows? If you look at Google earnings, they reported well, but the move was minimal, a slight push up. But Google has a tendency of popping and then fading their gains back down into that 10-day exponential moving average and then moving. Tesla gapped down, but it did get a little bit of a revival on Friday off of news that they were going to be launching robotaxi this weekend in San Francisco. I'm not touching Tesla, and I'll get into that chart here. If we take a look at the Qs, we could see that we made a new all-time high on Friday. Just keeps making new all-time highs. The last time this thing touched the 20-day exponential moving average was June 23rd. You can see that we are getting declining volume here. We're slightly overbought on the RSI. You do have a little bit of support there on the VRVP, but again, it's in need of a pullback. Taking a look at Bitcoin, it is up here on this Sunday. We have this upper resistance trend line drawn that it's going to have to break that in order to push up to new all-time highs. And I think that this is going to hit 130 before we do get a meaningful correction. And at 125 was my target by the end of the year, but I think we're going to surpass that. And I think 130 is likely in the next 2 months. We're getting a similar pattern here like we had before when we broke out and hit that 123 area, that upper trend line resistance. It smashed through there. So we might get a little bit more sideways consolidation and then a breakout. And then after 130, that's where I can see a significant pullback. But just take this into consideration here. From the all-time highs of the Bitcoin hit here recently, if you go down 10%, a 10% correction on this beast is the 50 on the daily. Let's take a look at the Dow Jones Industrial. You can see we broke above that upper trend line resistance. We're closing in on an all-time high. You do have support here on the VRVP. This one's going to need to hit all-time highs before we correct overall. That's probably going to happen maybe tomorrow. So keep an eye on this guy. We do have the golden cross that happened here on July 15th. And then we take a look at IWM. Quite a ways away from its all-time highs. It keeps trying. It's in an interesting spot. It's got support here. Can it break out and move higher? It needs some of these small cap companies to report. These are speculative companies, but look at this divergence that we're getting as this thing is pushing up. Just taking a look at the RSI here. If we draw a trend line, we could see that momentum is fading, and we have seen the volume fall a little bit even as the price is pushed up. So I'll be watching this one. I'll just grab some puts on IWM this week when we get a nice strong pop. So I'm waiting for a big strong push higher on IWM, and I'm going to buy some out of the money puts, hold on to those for the possibility of a downturn in the market, because IWM should get hit hard if that happens. Let's just go take a look at a few others here. TLT, we can see that support area still continues to build out structure. Again, this could be a nice play if there is some weakness in a downturn in the market, but who knows when that's going to come. If we look at the 10-year Treasury, we're just moving sideways, really, and we're building pressure. It's going to break. It looks like it's getting ready to break out, so keeping an eye on this. Again, the 10-year influences mortgage rates. Is this going to fall off a cliff? Who knows? We'll see. So I'm monitoring that. And then the VIX continues to burn down, and we broke down through the lows that we were making on this on July 10th. And what I'm watching for is this low here on February 14th. If we break through that, or if we see a spike in the VIX, and this is when we started to sell off pretty hard here. So just be ready for this VIX to get elevated again, to spike. I've talked about some out of the money VIX calls. It's just a preparation play in the event some type of crisis occurs. It's not going to stay down here forever, but the VIX is definitely burning down. It's rolling, and let's watch and see what happens with that. So again, just overall with the broader markets, we're due for a pullback, but we don't want to go counter trend, but we should have a plan for anything that we're in long with to trim profits, protect ourselves with stops, and just be ready in the event when things flip. How are you going to trade that? How are you going to shift and be able to move with the momentum of the market? Because we are due, and let's say that the forward guidance from these major companies reporting this week are not strong, then that could be a catalyst to send things lower, to spike the VIX. Are we going to see, and also keep in mind, August 1st is that tariff deadline. We haven't heard too many deals get done. So we need news here in these first 4 days that, hey, deal's been made with the EU, deal's been made with China, and let's see if that will lift us higher. If the deals aren't done, those tariffs take effect August 1st. That could be the spark to dump things. So let's just jump in here. I talked about it at the outset of the show, what I'm looking for in terms of day trades, my top play, and it's got to be MU, and here's why. So this thing bonked on earnings. I lost money here on some calls. Happens, right? But notice that we're back down here at the 50, but we are in this resistance range that was super strong for such a long time that MU could not break through, and it's just hanging out there. So we're having the 50s meeting along with this resistance. So there should be a bounce that comes out of here, and I'm going to try and day trade it. So this is going to be one that I'm watching very closely. You can see that we've sold down quite a bit on the RSI. So this one could be due for a bounce. If it would come down a little bit further here, the strong volume node near the point of control, a nice little pop grind out of there. Like I said, I'm going to be watching this one for a day trade, not a swing trade. So in and out, just trying to catch a pump on that one. Apple, I've talked about how I have a position that I'm going to be in probably until January. This thing just can't get going. And I talked about my community today, how this has just been range bound. It's just been moving within this range. You have a clearly defined support. You have a clearly defined resistance, and it's going to need a catalyst to break out. We need to see NVIDIA start to sell down, Microsoft start to sell down, and see that money rotate here into Apple. And really, their conference call, they're going to have to just blow it out of the water when it comes to AI. So we're going to get that report on Thursday. And everybody's going to be waiting with bated breath about what their AI plan is. Are they going to announce purchasing Perplexity? Or have they been working on some super top secret AI thing that hasn't been revealed? We're going to find out. And I can't wait. You do have the 200 SMA on the daily and the 50 on the weekly as resistance up there at 222. But if it shoots through that, this thing could go. And last summer, it did have a nice push here. It peaked out in July. We've been doing the opposite here this year. The concern here for anybody who's long Apple is they don't have anything to share related to AI, and it dumps and it comes back down into the support. If that were the case with the position that I had, I'm just going to add, and I'm in this until around January. I will trim as this becomes more profitable. It's a profitable trade as we stand. I think there's more upside here, and Thursday is going to be a big day for all the Apple holders out there. The trade desk, we could see here that this thing popped when it got added to the SPX and just traded within that price range, and then it finally broke out. We got a close above that upper wick here in 91.30. Looks like at the next point of resistance where it'll chop, but that has a gap to fill here up to 118.11. Keep an eye on trade desk. There's definitely some opportunity here, but note it is a bit overbought here on the RSI. SMCI, look at this beautiful close that it got here on Friday above all these upper wicks. You have to wonder if this is going to start to squeeze some of the bears, if we're going to push up here into the 66 area, this high that we made when it was saved from being delisted back in February. Earnings is coming up on August 5th, but I do like that candle close above those upper wicks. Let's see if we get a little bit of a push on SMCI on Monday. Roblox, man, this thing just keeps chugging. I think this was your pullback here. That was it. I lost a day trade on Thursday, won one on Friday on Roblox, and we get earnings on Thursday. I'm going to wait to see if we get a little bit more weakness that comes in Monday, Tuesday, and I'll take a spot. But I think this thing has the potential to fly on earnings and clear this 142.42, its all-time high, and never come back down to this area again. So definitely watching Roblox. This one is actually going to be up here with MU that I'm watching closely. And the third that I'm watching very closely is going to be ROKU, because this chart, if you look at Roblox, what it did, it just channeled side forever before it broke out again. We talked about the high that we saw on ROKU back in the day, 492. This thing is above all of its moving averages. It's sitting right there on that 200 on a weekly. And if it reports, this thing can bump. And I'm here for it. I'm watching this one. These are the three that I'm watching real fast, quick day trades on MU, and then just trying to catch nice moves post earnings on Roblox and ROKU. I'm watching those guys very closely. I do think there's big time potential, especially on ROKU. Netflix, it had this nice little pullback here, about 13.49%. We have a little tiny hammer that came in here. We have dropped from being overbought to really being close to oversold. And Spotify is going to report on Tuesday. So watch, if Spotify pops, it will probably lift Netflix with it. I'm not sure what that correlation is. I haven't studied it. Maybe somebody out there watching will be able to point that out to me. I did sell just one lonely put here at 11:25, August 15th expiration. If we get a strong drive out of here, that's going to make that call worthless. I'll buy it back and I'll profit off it. But I also don't mind owning 100 shares of Netflix here at 11:25. So I'm watching that one pretty closely. It's due for a little bit of a push. CRCL, this looks like a nice double top to me. Higher high, lower high. Watching the neckline here to see if we could break this 171.91. I have puts that expire on Friday. They are down at this point. But this one could drop pretty fast and furious if it can get below this 182 mark, because look how thin the volume is here, all the way down to 122. I don't think it will get there, but I am watching to see if we get a gap fill here at 134.74. That would be a beautiful thing for my puts. Taking a look at Goog and what it did. What did we do here? Gapped up, faded down. And if you watch my earnings preview, I talked about how Google has a tendency to gap up and fade down, and that's exactly what it did. So I'm going to watch to see if this thing wants to pull down into the 10. We could see it drop and then start to push back up higher. But it had a positive report, so it was just a weak response. HIMS. Woo, this was a hell of a candle here. It almost filled the gap, but didn't. So watch that gap up there to 61.47. It tried to get close on Friday, but this one has an opportunity to do just that. It's going to report earnings on August 4th, but a strong move from HIMS last week. Meta, this one, I wouldn't be surprised to see this one have a massive move on earnings. And if we can get a down day, I'll pick up a December 2025 $1,000 out of the money call option, because I do think that Meta hits 1,000 before the end of the year. But this one is just really, sure, it made a new all-time high, but it really hasn't had some of those big Meta moves that we've been used to in the past. Nice interest here, nice volume on the VRVP. We're sitting on that 20. We have the 50 below us. I wouldn't be surprised to see Meta knock it out of the park here, and they report on Wednesday. So just keep an eye on Meta. If I'm anticipating who's going to pop, I'll put my money on Meta, literally, and Apple, Microsoft, and Amazon, not so much. Although I could see Microsoft continuing with their dominance. I do the Meta chart here. We're not overbought. We're hanging out there in the middle of the RSI. So keep an eye on Meta. That should be a fun one. Visa is going to report on Tuesday. I do this candle that came in on Friday. That's right there at that 50 SMA on the daily. It's squeezed above there a little bit, but it's probably waiting for this earning report. Watch a gap fill up here to 369.74. I actually sold my Visa shares this week. But again, this one has room. We're not overbought. We're not oversold. We're kind of chilling in the middle on the RSI. But I do like Visa. Marathon Digital Holdings broke out finally, rejected, double top, came back down here, and it's essentially just retesting the neckline of that inverted head and shoulders. With earnings coming on Tuesday, are we going to get a push out of here? Who knows? Mara is kind of frustrating stock to trade, but watching to see what that does. Amazon actually filled its gap with this weird wick. Check this out. If I go, let's just go into the 3-minute time frame. Look at this crazy wick that came in here. Look at this thing. Is that insane? Look at that. That's how big of a move was that? It's a $3.83 candle there, right? And you want to talk about getting wicked out on a trade. And that was on Thursday. I saw that thing come in. I was like, man, filled the gap. So Amazon is going to be reporting. Let's see here. They're on Thursday with Apple. And the last time that Amazon reported, what did they do? They just moved sideways. So it's the battle of the A companies, Amazon and Apple. Again, anytime Amazon gets overbought, it tends to get pushed down really quickly. We're getting back up near those all-time high levels. No true edge for me on Amazon, so I'm just sitting that one out. NVIDIA, a little bit of a double top here that I'm seeing. Lower high, higher high. We are seeing the volume dip a little bit. Momentum starting to fade on this one. Are we going to see a rotation out of NVIDIA into some of the other stocks? watching to see if that happens. I'm not trading NVIDIA right now. It's too extended. I'm looking to see 180 before like a real significant pullback. I made my money on NVIDIA this summer. I'm not touching it. Tesla, just... Here's the thing. The earnings report, and again, I like Tesla. I'm a Tesla owner. I will always have a Tesla vehicle because I think they are high quality vehicles. What I will say about Elon Musk is that he has a tendency to overpromise and underdeliver and say that things are further along than they actually are. And that's frustrating to investors. And with all the other things that are happening, for me, I like to own Tesla long term. So like a swing trade, 6 to 8 months, sit on shares, and typically it pays well. I'm not ready to do that right now because I still think there's some weakness here. And again, kind of like I'm being a cheapskate on UNH, I'm waiting for this thing to come down to the 150, 160 range, down here at that 100 SMA on the monthly. Will it get there? Who knows? Probably not, but that's going to be my plan to take it. And then from a day trading perspective, I don't have a true edge on this one, so I'm not touching it because it's really just in the jungle here of moving averages. I don't have a great edge, so I'm just watching from afar, and I'll let this thing develop. I'll cheer for others who are trading it. I hope you make money off it. I don't have an edge on it right now, and I would like to own it long term, but I'll wait for a big steep drop off, and then I'll be a buyer down here. I'll probably actually sell some puts, but yeah, I'm just watching from afar right now on Tesla. Taking a look at Coinbase, this reversal candle that I pointed out last weekend was spot on. Nice drop. Are we going to come lower? I'll be watching to see if that happens. And then Microsoft just continues to be a beast. Man, new all-time high on Friday. This thing's got to come down, right? When did they report? Wednesday. So we'll see here. It's going to be fun. A couple more tickers I want to look at. Palantir, the Chris Carter of stocks. Chris Carter, all he used to do as a Minnesota Viking was catch touchdowns. All Palantir does is make new all-time highs. Not touching this one. It's got earnings coming up. I might miss out on it, but it doesn't fit my criteria. In my Adobe update, I'm not yet ready to pull the trigger. Waiting for more weakness on this one. I'd love to see it come down to this trend line that has been in place all the way back to, what is this, 2019. If it comes down here, I am going to take a flyer on this one. Preferably, if it could do that before earnings. It reports on September, so we got time. Come on down here, Adobe. I will take a shot on you, but I'm not ready yet, but I do keep watching this chart. So keeping an eye on that one. That would be a nice little double bottom, something like this. Like just bloop, boom, right? So watching Adobe, not ready yet. AMD continues to push up, beastly, above all of its moving averages. Not much to say about that one. It reports earnings the week after. Let's see what else I want to take a look at. Robinhood had that reversal candle, nice little sell down, chilling right now. It's going to report on Wednesday this week. So another big one. I'm going to have an earnings preview video for this one the week of August 7th. Double top. We're kind of hanging in there on that 20. This gap fill, keep getting rejected there. Above that, there's nothing to hold it back. Lots of support here. So we'll see what this one wants to do. It looks like it wants to come a little bit lower, but there's support here. I'm just waiting on the sidelines. If it can come down here to this 200 on the daily and the 50 daily, I'd be willing to take a flyer on it. But right now, I'm just catching from afar. UNH reports on Tuesday. And let's see if that hammer from May 15th gets taken out. If we can get that lower wick taken out, then maybe I'll get my cheapskate 188.06 fill. There's just too much negativity here. I would be a big buyer at 188. So watching very closely. Let's see what this one does on earnings. It's in need of some good news, but it doesn't look like it's coming. And then ExxonMobil, this upper resistance trend line is very strong. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Are we going to come back up and retest it again and get rejected, or are we going to break through? Boeing, I do like the chart here on Boeing. They report earnings on Tuesday morning. Right below that 100 SMA on the monthly. If you go to the weekly, it looks pretty nice. I could see a gap up on earnings. It just blasts through that, and this thing starts to run back up to all-time high. So I am actually going to move this Boeing chart up, and this would be more of like a swing type play I'll do with options. I'm actually going to put that right after MU. So I am watching Boeing. I do that chart. And I'm trying to see if there's anything else I want to take a look at here before we wrap up the video. No, I think that's it. I will look at coals real fast for Scott. And so this massive squeeze that we had here on the 22nd of July, look at this move, all right, from close here on Monday to the top of that wick, $11. That's a huge move for coals. But then what happened? Boom, sold right back down. It's hanging out on that 200. I actually have to move. I didn't update my lines on this one, but it's coals. It's just back down doing a whole lot of nothing. But there you go, folks. My top tickers that I'm watching this week. MU for some day trades. I like the Boeing chart because I think there's a chance that this thing just gaps up over that 100 and there's nothing above it. Smooth selling back up to all-time highs. Can it make a push like that? I'll be watching to see if I can catch it. I really like Roblox heading into earnings, and I really ROKU, and I'm still sitting on my Apple position. It's frustrating, but I'm in it for the long haul, like I said, until January. So we'll see what happens. And you don't need to be right on everything to be a profitable trader. You have to protect your risk, but be mindful. Like I said at the outset of this, we are extended. We are due for a pullback. Are we going to get some crazy news this week? We're going to find out, because there sure is a ton of data, a lot of earnings. There are going to be, I have so many earnings previews videos coming this week, so be ready for it. They're going to be coming fast and furious. I backed off my shorts a little bit, but they'll be coming back here soon because it's family time. It's a summer. But I want to thank you for being a supporter of the channel. Please smash the subscribe button. Leave me a comment. Let me know your thoughts. And I'll see you back here next week for another market preview. Make it a great day, everyone.